Hello everybody and welcome to the website penetration testing section. Now, before we begin with explaining some of the basic terms and things you will need to know, let me just show you where you can download the intentionally invulnerable virtual machine that we will use as a web pen testing machine. So, you just go open up your Google Chrome and type this link into your search bar, which is https://projects/OWASP When you type that, it will lead you to this page, where you basically just click here on the download. Once you click here on the download, it should start downloading the 1.7 gigabytes large zip file, which will take some time to install, but once it does, the process of installing the virtual machine itself is rather easy and fast. So since I have already this zip file installed on my Windows 10 host machine, I will close this installation process or downloading process. You just wait for it to finish and you will basically end up with this file right here. Well, not this file right here, which is the OWASP broken web apps VM 1.2.7z. The file, as you can see, is a WinRAR file and it is zipped. It is the size of 1.69 gigabytes. And once you get this file, you want to extract it, so just extract it to any folder you want and you will get all of these files right here. Now you might be asking why we have all of these VMDKs right here. Well, we only are interested in the first one, which isn't any type of S001002, you will use only this one. And I will show you how to make the virtual machine right now. So open up your VirtualBox. Once you extracted all of these files, you just go here on the new, and here you type here the name of your virtual machine. You can name it OWASP if you want to. Here you pick the Linux and here you pick the Ubuntu a 64-bit. So find Ubuntu 64-bit and just type here next. You cannot create the machine folder OWASP in the parent. Okay, so I already have this machine, so I can just type here OWASP1 and here you can leave it on 512 megabytes, it doesn't matter, so just click here next and under the hard disk you go to the use an existing virtual hard disk and you try to find, let me just show you, if you open up the extracted folder, you want to click on the first one, which is the OWASP broken web apps -cl1.vmdk. So you pick that one and click here open and choose. Once you choose that, just click here on create and you created your virtual machine. So in order to start your virtual machine, just click here on start and basically it will finish the process of installation the virtual machine by itself. So we will just wait for it since it doesn't take that long. After that, it will prompt you with the username and password for the virtual machine, which while this is installing, let me write you into the notepad file. So the username will be, where is the equal sign, will be root and the password will be OWASP BWA. So once it prompts you with the username and password, just type these two right there. Now this also, as well as Metasploitable, is not a GUI machine, it is basically a command line machine, so you will only be able to execute commands from here. As we can see, it prompted us with a login, so OWASP BWA login, type here root, and as a password type here OWASP BWA. And once you do that, it will log into your command line, and the only thing we want to do from here is basically configure our IP address in order to be a part of our local network. Now be careful if you don't expose this machine to the untrusted network, as it is a machine full of vulnerabilities. So if you can, just keep it on host only or on the net, but in my case I will just put it on the bridge adapter, since I will perform scans from another virtual machine that is also on the bridge adapter, so we want to make them both belong to our local host. So in order to do that, first of all, just close this machine. So you need to close it, type here OK, go on to the settings for that virtual machine. Basically, we just do the same thing that we did for our Kali Linux. Go under network, find bridge adapter and choose your network interface. Once you do that, also make sure cable connected is checked and click here OK, and you are set to go. So right here, if we type here, if we open up our machine, I will show you what things do we get from it. And in the next lectures, I will teach you some of the basic stuff you need to know in order to continue web pen testing. Now, just wait for it to boot up, and once again, it will prompt you with username and password. And once it does that, we are good to go. Our machine is up and running a bunch of vulnerable programs that we can pen test. So here we can see it is starting a bunch of the programs. Tomcat web server. And here it even says in all these cases you can use root as username and password OWASP BBA. So in case you forgot, you can just read it from up here and type here the password, and it will log into you to your command line. So if we type here once again ifconfig, we will have a IP address of 192.168.1.9, which belongs to our local network. Now let me show you what happens when we visit that IP address. So just go onto your Kali machine or from your host machine, it doesn't even matter. Open up your Firefox and type here the IP address of your virtual machine. It will lead you to this page, and you will see a bunch of these options right here, which you can click on. For example, if we go OWASP right here, you will get a bunch of, as you can see, malicious file execution, information leakage, improper error handling. This is just a bunch of programs running for you to test, and we will cover most of them, not all of them since that will take a lot of time, but most of them. You can even see some of the login pages. As we can see, authentication required. We have no idea how to get in here, but we will find out soon enough. As we can see, Apache Tomcat, it gives us the version, a bunch of vulnerable programs that we will test in the future videos. But until then, you can experiment and see what kind of things we have right here, and we will pen test them later on after I finish explaining some of the basic stuff you need to know in order to continue. So this is it for this lecture. We will cover the HTTP protocol in the next lecture, and I hope I see you there. Take care. Hello everybody and welcome back, and in this tutorial we will cover some of the basic terms that you need to know in order to understand better the things that we will cover in the web penetration testing section. So let me just open here LeafPad and enlarge it a little bit. So first thing I want you to know is basically some of the most basic terms, which is, for example, HTTP. Now, we already covered what it is in the basic networking terms and basic ethical hacking terms, but here we need to cover it a little bit more in details. So HTTP is a hypertext transfer protocol. It is basically used on all of your website pages. As you can see, if we open up any page, you will either have an HTTP or HTTPS right here. And as we already said before, the difference between these two is that HTTPS uses SSL or TLS encryption in order to protect your files from anyone trying to interfere with your internet connection. So basically, if this was an HTTP website without the S, anyone that is putting himself in the middle between me and this website can basically read all of my information. For example, if there was a login page right here, as we can see login right here, and if I type here my username and password, he could get them in plain text. While as with the SSL and TLS encryption, all my data would be encrypted and he wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. So that is another thing that you can check every time you log in somewhere. For example, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, any page basically today shouldn't be HTTP. If you open up a page, for example, for Facebook, and it says right here only HTTP, it is most likely going to be a fake Facebook page and someone is phishing for your credentials. So that is an important thing to know. Also, the next thing I want to tell you about is the HTTP headers. Now, HTTP headers, we will cover them in great detail later on with our Burpsuite tool, but for now on, they're basically two things you need to know, which is what is an HTTP request and what is an HTTP response. We will cover the HTTP request right now, so let me just open up a picture that I downloaded, which is basically request header. It will show you how HTTP header request looks like, and we will cover some of the parts that it shows. So basically, let us just open this picture first. Here it is. This is a typical HTTP header, request header. So let me just enlarge this a little bit so you can see it better. As we can see, there are a few stuff right here that we need to know about. First of all, what is the HTTP request? Well, HTTP request is basically every time you type here google.com on your, for example, Firefox, you just open here and type here google.com, it will perform an HTTP request for this page. Now, what I mean by that is we as clients request a page and the server sends us back the page with the HTTP response. And that page contains the HTML, the HTTP response, and so on and so on. Now, well, basically HTTP requests has some of the options right here that I will explain right now. The get, as you can see, the get part right here is a method, HTTP method, which basically references to the website that we tried to search. So if we try to search google.com, right here it would type get google.com, since we tried to get that website. So it is simple as that. You just translate this into English and basically just ask to get that page from the server. The protocol right here, as you can see, which is HTTP 1.1, is just a current version of HTTP, and the path, as we can see right here, is the current path that we searched. So for example, as you can see right here, the path would be /projects/OWASP BVA. That would be the path if we searched this page. The host would be the server that we search for. So the host will be the name of the website that we typed in our search bar. So in our case right here, sourceforge.net would be the host. The user agent is basically, this is what server uses to identify every client. So we, with the HTTP request, we send to server also some of our own information. For example, what kind of web browser we are using, which in this case is Mozilla 5.0. What is our operating system? In this case it is Windows, and so on and so on. So basically user agent is ourselves with our web browser. Here we can see accept, text, and HTML. Basically here we specify as a request what do we accept from the server in return, and we basically accept the HTML page, which is most likely what we are going to get. So let me just show you. The HTML is basically a code that you use to write these websites. You can check out the HTML code of every page with right click on the page and check the source code. Once it opens this up, this is basically an HTML code, which starts with head, body, and so on. It has a bunch of things. It's not really that hard to learn, and it is the essentials of every website you visit. So it's good to know that as well. So let's just get back to our HTTP request. The accept language, as we can see right here, is basically the language, as it says, English US, accept encoding, gzip, deflate, so we do accept encoding. There are certain attacks that we can use in order to remove this encoding and basically get the file in plain text. Accept charset, which is UTF-8, so keep alive 300, connection keep alive. There are a bunch of these options that we do not really care about, but the one that we do care about is the cookie. Now, what is a cookie? Cookie is basically a temporary value that is used to keep our information about the current session that we are having. So without cookies, the server would after every request forget who we are and wouldn't know what we searched for example before, or what our username and password was, or basically it wouldn't know who are we in the previous request. The cookie is stored on the server, and it basically has all the information about our current session. Now we can see the PHP session ID, and this is basically the cookie itself. It is a random number. It is also one of the main points of the attacks, as we can see if we were, for example, to change this cookie value to something else, we would be logging into a different session, which could be potentially dangerous. Now, there is another option right here in the HTTP request headers that isn't listed right here, and it is the authorization. Now, with this parameter, HTTP enables the identity check of client. So for example, if I log into my router, let me just 192.168.1.1, this little window that will pop up right here, it should pop up any second, here it is basically authorization. So this is how my router checks the identity of me. If I know the username and password, I can log in. If I don't know the username and password, I can't log in. So those are some of the basics of the HTTP request headers. There is also some of the other things you should keep an eye on, which is session tracking with cookies. It is an important one, as I said. Also HTML, you need to know what HTML is, which most likely you do. It is a code that is basically used in order to create websites. As we can see right here, this is HTML code. And that is about it for the HTTP headers, request headers. Now I will also discuss the HTTP response headers, which are similar, but basically HTTP response is, as it says, a response from the server to us. So the HTTP request is what we send to the server, and HTTP response is what server sends back to us. So we will discuss that in the next tutorial, and I hope I see you there. Hello everybody, and welcome back. In the previous lecture we discussed what was an HTTP request, and right now we will discuss what an HTTP response is. So, as I said, they are very similar. The response is basically what server sends back to us. For example, when we send an HTTP request with the get and then the name of some page, we basically want the server to send us that page back. So it will send us the HTTP response with the HTML code of that server, and that's how we load the pages. So let us see the basic structure of the HTTP response. Here I have a picture, and let me just enlarge this a little bit. As we can see right here, the upper part is the header of the HTTP response. As I said, the HTTP response is consisted of two things, which is the header and the body. In the header we get this information about the server, and in the body we basically get the content, or the website HTML code, which is basically just the page itself. So the HTTP response starts with the protocol, which is current version 1.1, and then the status code. The status code basically represents the 200 right here. As we can see, represents that the operation was successfully done. Now, you can also have some of the other codes right here. For example, if the number right here starts with 4, that means that you have a certain error in a request. If the number right here starts, for example, with 5, there is an error, but this is not an error on the client side, this is an error on the server side. So the 400 and then some number is the error in the request side or on the client side, and the 500 and then some number is the error on the server side. Also, as I said, 200 means that operation was successfully done, and the 300 means redirection of the website. So for example, you try to visit some of the website and it redirects you to another website. That will be specified with the status code of 300 and something. Now there are some of the things that we need to remember right here. The date doesn't really matter to us that much. The server is basically important since it gives us the version of the version and type of the server itself. As it says right here, it is Apache 2.0.63 Unix, and it is useful for us attackers because we basically get the version of the server and we can use it, just paste it in the Google and try to find any specific vulnerabilities for that version. So today some of the websites even leave out this option right here in the HTTP response just because it is so valuable to the attackers, but most of them still have it. So we will be using this option as well in order to try to find and gather some of the other vulnerabilities for that specific version of the server. The next thing we are interested in is a thing that isn't really specified in this HTTP response, but it is basically a set minus cookie option. It is the server that is setting a cookie value for ourselves. So it is basically sending a cookie value that it assigned to my machine in order to track my session. So it is also an important thing. Here you can see that the header and the body response is divided by this blank line. So you don't need to remember it like that. You can basically just remember it as in the content or in the body of the response it will be an HTML code, which is easy to recognize with these arrows. It basically always begins with these arrows and closes with these same arrows, so you will easily know what the HTML code is. Now that is some of the things that you need to know from the HTTP response, but before we continue, there is another thing that I want you to know, which is the HTTP methods available. The methods are basically, let me just open my virtual machine, let us just log in. Now, we covered one method already in our first HTTP request video. We covered the get method. So basically, when I type the google.com or let's say facebook.com, I sent an HTTP request with the get method, which basically just requested from the server this page. Now, there are a few other methods, for example, post, head, trace, put, delete, options. Those are all bunch of the methods that you can send to the server. The most important for us would be the get method, which we already covered, which is just requesting the website, and the post method. Now, the post method is basically us sending some of the information to the server. Now, you might be asking what kind of information do we want to send? Well, a simple example would be us sending a username and password. It is done with the post method. So let me just open up the picture again. So we open the request header, and here we can see the get method. Now instead of the get, if we did a post request, it would type here post. So basically just POST. So the post request would be if we, for example, on email type here anything and pressed here log in, this is us sending a post request. Now it asks, of course this isn't a valid account. As we can see, we got someone named Pablo Canseco or whatever that name is. So that is us sending the post request. Now I will explain it a little bit further once we get to the Burpsuite installation, well, not installation, most likely configuration, since it can be a little bit difficult to configure first time, so I will lead you to that process. But let me just for now close this and show you how you can scan with the things that we did learn already the available methods, HTTP methods on a certain website. So for example, you want to scan a website and see if there is a post method available, head method available, delete method available, or any other method. You can do that with a simple Nmap script. So we already covered Nmap before, so let us just go into our scripts folder, which is under this path right here, user share Nmap then scripts. And what we want to find is the HTTP method script. So let me just type here ls in order to list, and let us try to grab the HTTP. Yes, I forgot the command grep right here. As we can see, there's a lot of them, so let me just type here ls grep and then method. Maybe it lists, I can type, maybe it lists less options. As we can see, there it is. And this is the script that we want, which is http-methods.nse. So in order to run that onto our OWASP virtual machine that I showed how to install before, let me just check here. So the IP address is .1.9, so we just run here nmap and then --script and then equals, and now we will copy the script name, paste it right here, and then we will specify the ports that it should scan. So it shouldn't really scan all of the ports, it isn't necessary. We know that the HTTP ports and HTTPS ports are 80 and 443. Now we will also add the port 8080 since it can be relatively commonly used as an alternative port to 80. So let us just type here P for the ports and type here 80, which is the HTTP port, 443, which is the port for HTTPS, and port 8080. And now at the end we want to specify our IP address of the target, so it is .1.9. Now we will let this run. I'm not really sure how long it should take. It should finish relatively fast. Here we go, and we can see that it gives us the output port 80 TCP open HTTP and available HTTP methods. We can see right here supported methods get, head, post, options, and trace. These are some of the HTTP methods, and potentially risky methods is trace. So we can see that with this Nmap script we can gather the available methods for any website with the specified port. Now, in order for us to view the packets that are going to the website and back, we need to use a proxy, and for that proxy we will use Burpsuite, which will let us see all of our packets that we are sending, and it will let us change them. And also it is used for some of the attacks, such as a simple brute force onto the website, the session hijacking, and bunch of other attacks. Now the process of making the Burpsuite as your proxy can be a little tricky, so I will show you how to do that in the next video. And until then, I hope you're having a great day and take care. Hello everybody and welcome back, and right now we will try to configure our Burpsuite in order for us to make it as a proxy and in order for us to intercept our own requests, HTTP requests and responses. So the Burpsuite, which is a program that we will use, is already pre-installed in Kali Linux. So if you go on to the applications right here and you go on to the web application analysis, it should be the first one right here. So if this is the first time for you running it, it might ask you for a root password. You just type it in and you open up the Burpsuite. Now another way that you can open it is through the command line. So here it will say that appears to be, it will basically just give us a message about the version. Just click here OK, it doesn't even matter what it says, and it should open up our Burpsuite. Now I already configured my Burpsuite, so it works for me basically I will just show you the process. We will need to configure some of the things in our Firefox and also some of the things in the Burpsuite in order to capture our packets. So here just click here on Next, use Burp defaults, click here on Start Burp, and it should start in a few seconds. Now what I wanted to say is that you can also run it through a command line with a Burps... wait, let me just move this a little bit. With the Burpsuite, and it will just open up the same thing right here. Just it will use your terminal for it, so you don't have to go to the applications and so on and so on. So as you can see right here, this is the Burpsuite. It is used, it has a bunch of options. It is used for us to intercept our own packets. Here we have some of the options such as HTTP history. Here we will have the websites that we visited in the current session. And here you have the intercept. Here you have the option that the intercept is on and intercept is off. Now, before I cover all of these options, I just want to show you what you need to do in order to get this to work. So what you want to go to is go to the proxy, which is the second one from the top, from the right, pardon me, second one from the left. And then below that you want to go to the options, so proxy and then options. Here we are interested in the Proxy Listeners part, where you will have by default this 127.0.0.1 on port 8080, which is listening on 8080 on a local host. Now what you want to do is select that one and basically just click here on the edit, and it should open up this small window where you want to specify the bind to port to be 8080, and here you can just basically you can put here all interfaces or loopback only. I leave it on loopback only, and you can also specify a certain address. So for example, my current IP address of this virtual machine is 192.168.1.6, but I will leave it on localhost and on loopback only, since I will specify that proxy in my Firefox as well. So just click here on the OK, so port 8080, loopback only 127.0.0.1, click here on OK. And now what we want to do is go to our Firefox. So open up your web browser, and where you want to go is basically here on the right, these three lines, open menu, and go to the preferences. Now under the preferences you want to go to the general, which is already opened right here by default. You want to scroll all the way down and find the network proxy. So here we can see configure how Firefox connects to the internet. What we want to do is basically make our Firefox connect to the internet through our Burpsuite. So click here on the settings and it should open up this small window. By default it should be set on no proxy. What you want to do is change that to be set on the manual proxy configuration. So once you check that, I believe since you didn't configure it before, it should have only the first one, which is HTTP proxy, set on 127.0.0.1 on port 8080. Now what you want to do, what you want to do is all of these four you want to set on the same settings, which is basically even the SSL, even the FTP, even the SOCKS host. You want to set all of these four onto the IP address of your local host, which is 127.0.0.1, and all of those four want to be set on the port 8080. Once you set all of these four to be exactly the same, you want to check here SOCKS v5. It should be checked by default, but if it is not, check here SOCKS v5. Once you do that, click here on OK and you should be good to go. So if we click here settings again, we can see that now our manual configuration proxy is set on the local host. Now if you go right here and try to search google.com, for you it first of all it won't work for you. It should say something like I'm not really sure, but it should say insecure connection or something like that. Basically it won't let you connect to google.com. But if you, for example, go to an HTTP website, which I'm not really sure, let me just find, any HTTP website. And do I have anything saved? Well, we have our web application, which is not HTTPS, so you should be able to connect to any HTTP website, but you will not be able to connect to any HTTPS website. Now, if you typed here any HTTP website and it is loading on forever, what you want to do is go to your Burpsuite and make intercept off. So if your intercept is on, like it is right now for me, it won't let you load any page, since it will wait for you to forward or drop the packet. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. If I refresh this page right here, you will see that this will load forever. It will never load the page. And in the Burpsuite, we can see that it basically gave us some of the HTTP header, request header, for this website, which is just my virtual machine, my OWASP vulnerable machine, and it will ask me if I want to drop this packet, which means to discard it, or to forward that packet to that machine. Now, if I forward it, and I open right here once again, let me just open up my Firefox, you can see that now it loaded the page, because I forwarded the package. Now, if you have that checked on, which means the intercept is on, you want to make it off so you can load the page without forwarding every package. So just click here and make sure that the intercept is off. And now if I try to reload the page once again, it will reload it normally and open the page. Now, we want to also make sure that we can load our HTTPS websites. For me it works, but for you it won't work until you install in your Firefox a Burpsuite CA certificate. Basically, we need to install the Burpsuite certificate in our Firefox in order for our Firefox to look at Burpsuite as a trusted proxy source. So in order to do that, first of all, make sure your Burpsuite is running. Make sure that you configured the preferences in Firefox. Let me just go once again right here. So make sure that this is the same as mine. Make sure the Burpsuite is running. If it's not running, this won't work. You won't be able to download the certificate. And once this is the same as mine, and once you run the Burpsuite and the intercept is off, you want to go and open up a new tab and type here HTTP and then burp. Just that. So once you type that, it will lead you to this page where it will say Burpsuite Community Edition. Welcome to Burpsuite Community Edition. What you want to go on here is on the CA certificate and click on it. It will ask you if you want to download this file, you want to save it. Yes, so the file is 973 bytes, so it's not that large. You just click here on the save, and once it downloads, you find where you saved it. Let's just find it. I already have one downloaded, so I have it right here. You will only have one of these. So once you find that, you want to go to your Burpsuite, you want to go to your Firefox, again to the preferences, but instead of going to the network proxy settings, we want to go onto the privacy and security settings. So once you're there, once you're at the privacy and security settings, what you want to do is basically scroll down and find the certificates. It should be, maybe they're all the way down. Yeah, there they are. So here are the certificates, and you want to go onto the View Certificates. Once this window opens up, it will show you a bunch of the certificates that are already in your Firefox web browser. Now what you want to do is import the already downloaded certificate that we downloaded from this website, which is HTTP Burp. How we do that? Well, basically we just go onto the import right here, so click on the import and find where this file is saved for you. I already imported it, so I won't be importing it twice. Here it is. Just click on the file and click on the open, and once it does that, click on the OK and you should be good to go. Now after that, if you type google.com once again, it should be loading the HTTPS websites as well as the HTTP websites. Now, if this didn't work, make sure once again that the Burpsuite is running, or this will not work. Make sure that all of these options are already set as mine, and you should be good to go. Now, once we made this work for HTTP and HTTPS, now we can track all of the packets going through our own Burpsuite. As we can see right here, if I go into the target, it will give me a list of all the hosts that I've already visited. As we can see right here, these are just a bunch of the HTTP request packets that I sent in order to visit my virtual machine, which is on the IP address of 192.168.1.9. Now, in the next tutorial, I will show you some of these packets, how you can configure them, how you can change them, and all of that, and where you can find all the websites that you visited and specific packet if you search for it. But for now on, just make sure that your Burpsuite works and that when you visit a website, so let me just show you once again, let's visit facebook.com. It should open up the Facebook page, and it should also have here a bunch of other Facebook domains opened. As you can see, the page that you requested will be the darker letters than the ones that it automatically searched for in order to get to your Facebook page. And we can see right here, this is our Facebook page and the HTTP requests that we got from it. So I will make sure to explain the requests and responses better in the next video, and until then, I hope you're having a great day and take care. Welcome back everybody, and in this tutorial I will show you some of the basics of Burpsuite, how to intercept packets, how to view packets, how to view responses, and so on and so on. This is also a great way for you to learn more about the packets themselves and learn more how an HTTP, for example, GET request or POST requests look like, and when you will be seeing them. So let's first of all run our Burpsuite. So for that, just type in your terminal Burpsuite, or you can run it through the applications right here. It will open up in the exact same way. As we can see right here, we get the message again, so just click here OK. Let me just close the terminal right here, and here you just go on temporary project, next, and then start Burp. Every time you open the Burpsuite, you will notice that under the proxy settings right here, the intercept is always on by the default. So that would mean that if I go into my Firefox, for example, and try to load, for example, twitter.com, it will never load it until I forward the packet or turn the intercept off. So it is useful if you want to watch the packet, so we can see the first packet, how it looks. So I requested this page with the protocol HTTP 1.1, the host is firefox.com, so basically, and the user agent is Mozilla 5.0. These are just my information. Since this is an HTTP request, I'm sending this to the server. So we can forward it, but you will notice that there will be another packet. So basically there will be a lot of packets that you will need to forward in order to get to the website. As we can see, even though I forwarded the first packet, it is not still on the website itself. So let me just forward all of the packets. And once you do not get any packet anymore, you should be loading the page. As we can see, there are lots of them, since this is a big website. In the previous video we did the same with the virtual machine, and you saw that I only needed to forward one packet in order to get to the page of my virtual machine. But from now on I had to forward several of them, and right now I should have Twitter loaded. As we can see, it is not loading anymore. I forwarded all the packets and I received all of the responses from the server. Now, in order to check that, you can go under HTTP history, and you will see right here all of the domains, all of the websites that you visited in the process of connecting. Now, there are a bunch of these detect portals. You will always have them. You just want to find the website that you're searching for, and when you find that, you can see the response to all of your requests. As we can see, maybe it is easier for you to view it right here. So here we have twitter.com. That is the page that we search for, and here we can see the first request that we sent. in order to check out the response on that request that we sent, you just click here on response, and this is the response of the server. And as we talked before, it is consisted of the head and body. So here we have the head, and with a bunch of these set cookie options, let me just find them. I just saw them, I can't see. So basically this is just a body. Right here starts the body, which is the HTML code. We talked about that, but let me just find the set cookie option. Here it is. So basically this is the option that I was talking about in the HTTP response video. This is the cookie that the Twitter set for us in order to track our session. So as we can see, the option set minus cookie, and this is our cookie right here. Now there are a bunch of the things in the cookie, as well as path, domain, secure, which means HTTP only, set cookie, max age, expires. It basically even says when does the cookie expire. So it expires on Monday, 18th February 2019, which means it expires today on this time. Okay, so that's one of the things that we covered. Here we can also have the status code, which is 200 OK. We successfully loaded the page, so we got the status code 200. These are just a bunch of the options that we do not care about, so we can go down here, and here starts the HTML code of the page itself. So this is what we load. It is basically a huge code, so we don't need to watch it, since the website is quite big. So that's how you can check the request and the response of a certain packet. You can go onto the post. Here we have a post request. You can check the response right here. Here is the request. Now there are some of the options that we do not care about. For example, this is not really that important to us. Now what is important is, let us turn the intercept on once again. So if I turn it right here off and turn it on, and here, let's say for example I want to log in. Now we said that the packet that we send with our username and password will be a post request. So once I type here the the username and the password, we should be sending the post request to the website. So let us try that. If I just type here anything and press here log in, you will notice that it is loading since we turned the intercept on. But right here we have the packet that we want to send as a post request. Here we can see the basic HTTP headers structure, and here we can see username or email 4 W's and password 5 W's. So we can see our packet from here. If I forward it, it will send to server the username and email with this username and this password right here. And these are just a bunch of the things that we do not care about at the moment. Now, if you, for example, turn the intercept on or forward this packet, let us just forward it and forward a bunch of other packets, it doesn't really matter, it will give us an error that this account doesn't exist. So you might be needing to forward a couple of packets. As we can see, there are no longer packets arriving, so we forwarded them all, and it says the username and password you entered did not match our records. Please double check and try again. Now, let's try to change that in the Burpsuite. Let's change the packet itself. So let us just go back one page. We should go to the login page once again. Now also I forgot to mention that using Burpsuite, your internet might be slower and you'll be loading pages a little bit slower than usually, but it is not a big deal. So we can see that this, let's just go to the new page, it doesn't really matter, twitter.com. Yeah, it could be that my intercept is on, of course, that's why I couldn't load it, so let us just turn it off, and we loaded the Twitter page. Now, let us turn the intercept on once again, and let us send again the same username and same password, which is 5 W's. And if I click here login, you can see that it is stuck since our intercept is off. Now let me just, this is a previous packet, so it doesn't matter. Here is our packet, and here let me try to change the username into 4 Bs. As you can see, 4 Bs. And if I try to forward this packet and forward all of the other packets, it will still give us the wrong username and wrong password, but it will show that the username wasn't 4 Ws, it was 4 Bs. As you can see right here, without any interaction with the page itself through the web browser, we managed to change the username through our Burpsuite. So that is another useful thing to know. It will be used later on in order for us to brute force websites. For example, you just add a password list and you change the packets as you forward them, and it tries every different password instead of the password that you specified right here. So we can turn the intercept off right now, and as I said before, in order to check the websites that you visited, you can go to the HTTP history or onto the target, and here you can also see the websites that you visited. Now there are a lot of other options that I will show you later on. For now on, it is enough for you to understand that there is a request and response that you can check out in Burpsuite, and also you can change the structure of packets. You can also delete some of the things. You can also change usernames, passwords. For example, you can also, let us go back once again. So we go back to the login page, intercept on, and then if I just type here something once again, now it doesn't matter what the username and password is, we can see it is stuck, and here the post request with the username 4 Ws and password 5 Ws, we can change, for example, the user agent. Now if we delete this, we will no longer be sending our information to the server. We will not send what version of web browsers are we running and what operating system are we running. So it is good if you do not want the server to know some of the information about you. So if you forward this packet, you will get some of the others. Let us forward them all, and let us finish these couple packets. So once it finishes, we get the same error, but if we go right here and we go to the HTTP history, let me just go right here to the Twitter and find the packet where we sent it. It should be all the way down, I believe. Let me just find it. Login error, okay. We basically just want to find the post requests. Here they are, some of the post requests. And as you can see right here, the difference between these two, which this one was the previous one and this one was the one we sent right now, is that this one has the user agent, which basically says that we are using Mozilla 5.0 Linux, and this one below is the same request with the same username and same password, but we deleted the information about ourselves. So the server will no longer be getting the information about our browser and our operating system, which is another layer of anonymity for you. So that's about it for this tutorial. These were just some of the basics and me showing some of the things for this program. We will continue in the next lectures, and I hope I see you there. Bye!